I want to begin by taking a moment to condemn the unconscionable shooting that took place in Atlanta, in suburban Atlanta, yesterday evening. It took the lives of 8 victims, at least 6 of whom were women of Asian descent. Make no mistake about this, this was a hate crime. It was a hate crime against, obviously, the immediate victims, but it was a hate crime against our entire Asian and Pacific Islander communities. This was a crime against Asian women. And this was a crime that has shown a harsh light on the anti-Asian violence and hateful rhetoric that has been on the rise since COVID-19 became a global pandemic and fanned by the hateful rhetoric of our former president in this country. To be clear, any crime against any one of our communities is a crime against all of us. We have to treat it like that. We have to feel it in that same way, and we have to attack these hateful acts in that vein. Especially since COVID-19 came to our country, Asian Americans have been hit with an especially vicious wave of racist vitriol, leading them in their businesses to suffer, leading them to be disproportionately targeted and attacked. And on top of that, having to deal with the ravages of COVID-19 as it swept through their communities. We have to be better than this in our city, in our state, our country. And in Chicago, we can't ever give hate any opportunity to take root. So to our Asian and Pacific Islander communities here in Chicago, I want you to know that I and we stand with you. We will be united in supporting your communities. And I will continue to do everything in my power to protect you. I checked in with the superintendent right before this press conference, and I want to remind folks, and hopefully this will be of some comfort, we have no actionable intelligence regarding a specific threat against our Asian or Pacific Islander communities here in Chicago. Nevertheless, the superintendent has directed that our officers remain diligent, and they will. And specifically, district commanders have initiated outreach with local community leaders, advocates, and business owners throughout the Asian and Pacific Islander communities. In addition, the CPD will increase their presence and patrols in these same communities. And I want to say directly to our neighbors and our friends in the Asian and Pacific Islander communities, you are not alone. We stand united with you, and if you see something, please say something. Call 911, use the CPD anonymous tip line, or contact our mayor's office of engagement. We will and we must be here for you. Now, let me turn to some more joyful news. We are here to announce that because of the progress that we've made today in fighting COVID-19, that we will move into Category 1C as planned on March 29th. This is good news for the tens of thousands who are anxiously awaiting their turn to get the life-saving COVID-19 vaccine. Since the arrival of these life-saving vaccines to Chicago back in December, we've been intentional about getting them to residents who need them most, rolling out initiatives such as Protect Chicago Plus and deploying our racial equity rapid response team to ensure equity remains at the heart of our distribution strategy, and working with our partners at the federal level to obtain more vaccine and open mass vaccination sites like the United Center. Simply put, because of the hard work and sacrifice of so many across our city, we have the opportunity to open up vaccine opportunity to more folks, and that's what we're doing. Both in continuing the ongoing fight against COVID-19 and also in other life-saving work of getting vaccine to our residents who need it most. This has been a courageous, important, difficult, but ultimately successful initiative citywide with many, many people who have made this work happen. And let me give you some examples. Talked briefly about Protect Chicago Plus and where we've brought a vaccine to areas of our city that need it most. And thanks to these efforts, we have made great progress. Back in our phase 1A of our vaccine rollout, when the focus was on healthcare workers and long-term care facility staff, at that point, less than 20% of vaccines were going to Black or Latinx residents. Now, that figure is over 50%. And data show that communities where the Protect Chicago Plus program was initially launched are seeing the fastest rates of increase in vaccinations in our entire city. When comparing coverage from the beginning of March, communities like Gage Park, South Lawndale, Belmont Cragen, and Archer Heights are now doubling, tripling, in some instances quadrupling the rate of people getting vaccinated. And now, as I said, we are here to announce that we are planning to move into phase 1C. Now, Dr. Arty will go into more detail in a moment, but I do want to explain what this shift to 1C does and does not mean. What it means is that starting 2 weeks from now, on March 29th, vaccination eligibility will be expanded to residents who have underlying conditions, essential workers such as restaurants, hotels, hairdressers, clergy, construction, delivery, and warehouse workers, just to name a few. Additionally, we will continue to vaccinate residents who are already eligible in 1A and 1B. And I want to particularly give a shout out to our seniors. We need to get you vaccinated, but more to the point, you need to get vaccinated. We need to continue that hard work of making sure that as many of our seniors as possible have access to the vaccine. So if you are eligible under the earlier phases or now, please don't hesitate to take advantage of the opportunity to get vaccinated. Contact your local health provider or visit ZocDoc, that's Z-O-C, doc.com/vaccine to get signed up. That's ZocDoc.com/vaccine. And as always, continue to visit chicago.gov/COVIDVax, where there's a vaccine finder to assist people eligible for appointments. Additionally, if you know someone who is eligible under these phases, please do everything you can to help them get signed up and get them vaccinated. Now, what this shift to phase 1C doesn't mean is that we'll have enough vaccine for those who are newly eligible right away. We are optimistic that we will continue to see a steady flow of vaccine in March, that April will even look better, but we want to make sure that we manage folks' expectations. It will take us some time because of the limited supply that we are still getting. But hope is on the way. We are expecting to receive more vaccine over the course of this next phase, and that will and that all those who are newly eligible under 1C will be able to get and make a vaccine appointment in either April or May. This shift doesn't mean that we should stop doing what we know has worked throughout this pandemic. Let me remind folks, you got to wear a face covering when you go out. It's critically important, the most important tool that we have to help prevent the spread of the virus. It means you also have to continue social distancing, not gathering in large groups, wash your hands frequently, and continue to wear a mask, and avoid all non-essential travel. I just want to share with you one last thing before I ask Dr. Arty to come to the podium. I started my day today at the United Center, at the mass vaccination site there, and I got a complete tour as folks that were moving in to get their appointments. And I have to say it was an absolute wonderful thing to see. Of course, because it's St. Patrick's Day, the Shannon Rovers were there to serenade folks as they came through the line. And whether you were in a wheelchair or whether you were able to walk on your own volition, people were moving through this facility in record time, but without any issues. And spontaneously, people came up to me after they had received their vaccination to compliment the team of folks that were there on how efficient it was, how they were pleased to get the vaccine, and that being there at the United Center site was easy and painless for them. And that's to the credit of many, many people, and I've said this before, but I think it bears repeating. First and foremost, we have to thank the federal administration, the Biden administration, for recognizing the importance of these kind of sites and placing an emphasis on equity. I want to thank FEMA in particular. I want to thank the Illinois version of FEMA, IEMA, led by General Tate Nadeau. I also want to thank the National Guardsmen who were there. There were many who were there from out of state, some from Kentucky even, and other places, who were sacrificing to be here in Chicago to help protect Chicagoans. So we owe a great debt of thanks to them. And of course, the owners of the United Center, the Reinsdorf and the Wirtz families, who have been tremendous partners to this city throughout the pandemic. But this really takes a village, whether it's at the United Center, whether it's at our other city pod sites, whether it's through the work of the pharmacies, CVS, Walgreens, Jewel. There's a tremendous spirit of collaboration and partnership across the city that is truly saving lives every single day. And we can't lose sight of that. There have been many times over the course of this last year where we've all had reason to despair, particularly a year ago when we didn't know what the future was going to look like and there was more uncertainty than not. But we've weathered a lot of storms over the course of this year. And I will just say, what I came away from that experience feeling today, well, a memory that I will have with me for the rest of my life, is that God's grace is shining on us. There is truly light at the end of the tunnel. We've got to stay diligent. We've got to continue to work hard, but we are moving exactly in the right directions. And I am grateful for the work of so many, more than I can possibly name, who have gotten us to this point. One of whom, of course, is our own Dr. Allison Ardoin, the Commissioner of Public Health. Doctor.